Hi there guys, in this video we're going to have a look at a highly upgraded Sidewinder. Now the Sidewinder is the start ship in Elite and Dangerous. It's a ship that you will get and often upgrade to something better pretty quickly, and then as you go through the various ships you won't kind of look at the Sidewinder again unless you're probably using it for something like suicidal wings. So I thought this was an ideal opportunity to actually go and have a look at how far you can modify a Sidewinder and if it can actually become a very useful ship. So in this build you can see I've got quite a fair jump range for a first ship in the game. You can see it's just over 27 light years. This is with 2 hard points installed. So if you do take these hard points off, it does increase the range a bit. Everything on the Sidewinder does seem to affect its jump range quite badly. So any extra weight on it does drastically drop it. So you can see with just one of those hard points off, we've gone up to 28.8. With the other one off, I believe we just get under or just over 30 light years, I believe. So you can see we just got over 30 light year jump, which is pretty good considering this is a start ship. So I'm going to reinstall the weapons, as I just wanted to show you quickly how much jump range you can get. Obviously if you get a slightly better modification you might get a little bit more higher. Although if you're looking for jump range at this sort of level, you're probably better off putting it in something like the Hauler, because I think that has around about 40 light year jumps. But anyway, I wanted to test this ship later on in combat means. So the modifications I've gone on these two weapons are overcharged. I've gone for overcharged because we're only dealing with 2 weapons, and since they're only class 1 I believe they could do with a damage increase as much as possible. So hopefully that is going to make them a bit more useful. So let's have a look at the engineering mods. So far I haven't done anything to the armour. I mean potentially I could have done, but I don't think that's going to affect anything. As for the power plant, I've gone for overcharge. Unfortunately I could only do this to grade 3, I just simply didn't have the resources for grade 4 or 5. This has resulted in a bit more power which is required. So next, the thrusters. I went for performance enhancing thrusters with dirty drive tuning at grade 5. This results in a top speed of 441 meters per second with a boost of 641, which is not bad. It's not the top speed you can get on some of the ships, but it is right up there. Next, with the frame shift drive, obviously you go for increased frame shift drive range. This is where you can get up to about 30 light years. I did get a 47% increase with a maximum fuel per jump of 4.6. I think that's actually quite a good roll. For life support I went for 1D and reduced the weight, so that's got it from half a ton to 0.15 tons. Next, on to our power distributor, and for this one I've gone for charged enhanced power. This basically means that things like weapons, engines and systems should recharge quicker, but shouldn't have such a large amount of capacity. Next, on to sensors, which I've just basically making more lightweight, reducing the weight from 1.3 tons to 0.4. Like I said, a lot of the times the weight reduction is more beneficial. So like I said, that is the modifications that I have done to the ship, and as you can see there, some of them are pretty high up. Okay, so with all that done, you probably want to know how the ship performs in the various roles as I normally do. So I think the first thing to look at is exploration. So in exploration, jump range and fuel consumption are very important. Here we've got around about 27.24 light years, and this jump is 25.2. As you can see, that is nearly using a third of our fuel in each jump. This will mean this ship will need constant refueling, which is not going to be ideal for exploration. Obviously giving you a 30 light year range is pretty good. If you decide to change some of the things for extra fuel, obviously that's going to impact your jump range. However, if you're really struggling with money in this game and you want to go exploring, I would think something like the Hauler would be slightly better. That will offer you up to around about 40 light years, I believe. So in all respects, the Sidewinder can go exploring, but its fuel consumption is pretty high and going to make it a bit awkward to actually get round. You're going to need a pretty good fuel scoop, which is kind of effective at class 2. As you can see, it does recharge it fairly quickly, but it does mean you will basically need to refill on every star. You can only afford to go without fuel maybe once, or even if you're really pushing it 2 jumps, but after that you will need refueling. So I would say the Sidewinder isn't a great explorer. Obviously it can do it at a push, but I would not recommend it. There is other ships in the game which do it so much more easier. I mean, if you can get up to something like the Asp Explorer, that is a very capable ship, giving you up to around about 50 light years. So I guess the next thing to do is to check the combat facilities of this ship out. I think we're all going to know roughly how this is going to perform. This is the start ship of the game with some modifications. Obviously I don't think these modifications are going to push the ship to that greater level, because like I said, we'd be restricted to things like class 1s and class 2 shields. But anyway, I did want to check out to see how it would perform. Okay, so when I left the station, I got interdicted by an Imperial Clipper. Now this ship is roughly about 22 million, so I'm not expecting to actually do much damage to this ship. But let's try our luck and see how we get on.
Under attack.
So that was kind of the result I was expecting. This was not something I planned, because that ship was going to be more powerful. I would have rather picked something a bit more better, but I was surprised I've actually knocked a bit off his shield. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to knock anything, but I think the next thing to do is to take it into a conflict zone and just see how it performs. So we've now found a high intensity conflict zone, which I know is again pushing our luck quite a lot, but I wanted to see the worst case scenario for this ship and whether it could actually perform in any of these tests. So the best way to do it is to take it into something quite dangerous. So I think here I'm going to have to definitely pick the target and hopefully be left alone. So let's have a look and see how we get on. So as you can see, this ship is not really suited to this area either. The big problem is the lack of shield. I think it's only got around about 90 shield strength, which in combat doesn't last long. This is also reduced if your target has got turrets and they can literally hit you from different directions. You could potentially take down some targets like Cobra Mark 3s and things like that if you can actually get on their blind side and stay on it. However, targets such as Anacondas, this ship doesn't stand a chance. And so in the combat situation, this ship isn't ideal. The two things that it struggles on is shields and weapons, and in combat obviously they are vital importance. The shields are just basically too weak at around about 90 shield strength. You could potentially put 2 shield boosters in there, but you would have to actually get the bigger power plant modification and also 2 shield boosters, which could reduce your maximum range as well. But I don't think a 40% increase is going to make the shield that much stronger. You're only working around about 90 shield strength, I believe. The other thing is the class 1 slots are just going to be quite weak, even with these overpowered ones. You could potentially put 2 pulse lasers on and get the shields down quicker, but the trouble is once you get the shields down, you're going to struggle to get the hull down. So overall, this ship, it can take on bigger targets than itself, but there is a limitation on how bigger ships it can take on, and you might get lucky with a few pot shots and be able to get bounties for some bigger ships. But all in all, yes, I would not recommend a Sidewinder for combat. I think we all kind of knew that, but it's something I just wanted to test. And then finally, if we look at trading, nothing really here changes. That's because we can't modify anything. We've got the same systems here. So if you're looking for trading, you're better off something like a hauler. That will give you a little bit more range as well. So let's look at a modified Sidewinder and how far you can take it. Obviously some of the upgrades you could go a little bit further than I didn't get exactly all the best rolls neither. So all in respects, the different rolls, for exploration it could potentially be a ship to go exploring, but the fuel usage per jump is pretty insane, and that's going to restrict your amount of travelling. You're going to find you're constantly refueling. For combat, obviously you're going to be very limited by your class 1 weapons or your class 2 shields. Either modifications on them are not going to make them that much better, they're just going to be limited. And then finally for trading, nothing really changes there because you still got the same internal systems and nothing there you can really modify. Anyway, that is a look at. I did want to do it because, like I said, it is a ship that gets overlooked. I might look at a few more ships and actually see how the combat goes in the ship a little bit more. I'm not expecting too much difference here. But anyway, if you did like the video, please leave a like, that really helps. Another thing, if you haven't already done so, is subscribe. I think that's it for the time being. If you have any ideas or comments, leave them below. Take care and have fun out there, guys.